back to our channel Code Crackers, the best platform for learning coding. Today I am going to explain you about Python variables. Today we are going to learn about three topics: what is a variable, data types of variable, and casting. Today we will learn these three topics: what is a variable, data types of variable, and casting. Let's get into our first topic: what is a variable. What is a variable? Actually, a simple and basic statement for a variable is variables are containers for storing data values. This means that variables are entries of a program that holds a value. You may not understand that what is value holding programming. You are thinking something. But let me say a small and simple example of a box. Let us consider a box which is having the value 100 and I named the box as X. In this case, X is the variable and 100 is the value that holding the variable X. Now let's go to our Python online compiler. See here I will type the code as X equal to 100. Now I want the value of X. See, I will just type print of X and now I just press run. See here we define the value of X equal to 100. Then when we ask the server to execute the result of X and we will just we want to execute the result of X, we need to just type the print and the variable name. If I take here the variable as H and I need to type here the variable also X. If you type the X, it will give you an error. See, let me type the variable as X. See here it will name error X is not defined. See here I define it as H. When we define the variable as H, we should take the name also as H. See now when I define it as H, it gives the exact result. The variable naming is also very important, and I hope you have understand about the variables in Python. Now let me explain about data types of variables. Before going into that, let me explain what are data types. If you have dealt with other programming languages before, you probably already know what are data types. But just in case you haven't know about data types, the basic type of value that you assign to the variable in our previous example where we set X equal to 100, in layman terms 100 is a number, so the data type would be a number. But when we come to programming languages, there are two types of number. First one is here integers and floats. And what is integer? You may have a doubt. What are integers and floats? In numbers, we have integers that plus, minus, and the numbers from 0 to so on. That is integers in that language. In this also, that's the same. The number which do not have decimal point is integer. In the math and also in the coding language also is the same. The number which do not have the decimal point is called integer. The number which have decimal point is called floats. The common point in this between is decimal point. In integers there will be no decimal. In floats there will be decimal. Other than that, a very common data type which we have in Python and other languages is string. String, in any word, in the technical terms, we call them as a collection of characters. Python also have a few of its own data type. We will see it. To get the data type of any variable, we need to use a common code called type. See here, let me explain the example in my Python compiler. See here, I open my Python compiler and see let me define X equal to 5 and I want the print. We must mention the brackets first and inside of that type and again brackets. Inside of this type brackets we need to mention X. See, now we written the code as we want the type of X. We know that it's an integer. Now let's run. See, it defined that the class is defined as an integer. Int is the extension of integer. Now let me take another term as y equal to. See, when we write a string, there must be compulsory the upper commas. See, now I want the x and y both terms. see, print of type of y. See, now I asked the server to define this both. See, it's executing on the server. See, first define x as an integer and y as an string. Now let's take one more term as z. Z equal to let me take what can we take, an integer. Let us take 3.9. see, I want the type of this z. Let me type that print of type of z, sorry, z. See, now I will run this. It will show that float because this variable having a decimal point. In this upper cases, there is no decimal point. In this case, it's a string, a very common language in Python. But in this case, it is a float because it has a decimal point. I hope that you understand the definition of integers, floats, and string. But you should never forget this code, that type. The type is very important. If you did not mention that, see, I will not mention that, you will not get the data type of this. See, I will remove all this type from this, all the codes. See, now I removed that. See, it will not show the type of the variables. We know that if you know it before, it's an integer, but as a beginner you should know the type. You should just type the code as type and the brackets and the variable name. The variable name should match the exact name. You should not change the name. If you want to change the name, you should change in the both places. You cannot keep another name in two places. You should keep the same name. If I keep here x, there must be here x. If I keep here y, here should be y. If I keep here z, here should be y. If we change the names, it will not show. See, here I will change the name as I. See, in a way, here I will run. It will show name I not defined. See, a very common point you should remember is the name must be same. And as we discussed in our last video, indentation is must and should required. But in this case, there must not be indentation. See, if I will take indentation, see, I mentioned here space, here space. See, I just run the code. See, indentation, unexpected indentation. See, because in variables the common point is nothing but we should not take indentation. Remember that indentation is not required in variables. Indentation is not required in variables. Now let's go to casting. What is casting? Casting is nothing but if you want to specify a data type of variable. See, if you want to specify, that means that if we want to specify the data type of variable, we can use casting. Now let's go through an example of casting. First I will open my Python online compiler and I will first I should erase the total code and let me type this x equal to, the extension for string is str of 3. See, now when I type this, next there must be hashtag compulsory because we are typing more number of variables. Hashtag x will be 3. See, x will be 3, we mentioned that, and if there must be commas compulsory. Apostrophe is must and be. Now let's type one more code. y equal to, let us take an integer of 3. Hashtag, what we will mention hashtag as y will be 3. Here no need of apostrophe commas. Next let us take the z as float. Z equal to float of let us take 3. Next we should mention that hashtag it must be a decimal. Now z will be 3.0, some decimal point. Now when we want, let's print this all. Print of x. Next, print of y. Next, print of z. See, now when we run this code, let us see. See, when we define this as floor, it gives us the result as 3.0. See, now here I will, you are thinking that string must be a name. See, now let's say take an example of name. See, my name is Balaji. Now let's type my name as Balaji. And string, when we define a string, there must be this inverted commas compulsory. And then when I run this code, see, it gives the result as Balaji because we defined this as string Balaji. Then it will give as, when the string is defined, when we ask the server to give the result of x, it will give the result of the string. We define the value of string as Balaji. Here the float value we defined as 3. When we define it as 3, we did not mention any decimal point. In our general math, if we don't have a decimal point, we will consider that as 3.0. In this, we can use the same phenomena here. Here also there is no decimal point. It will give us the result as 3.0. Integer is the same as number which we get from the code. Okay, this is today's topics. Thanks for watching our channel. Please like, share and subscribe.